thought I would show y'all how I actually paint the little coneflowers. I do all the underpainting first in white, whether it's on the black or this little fence design. Now, if I was painting it on a lighter background, then I don't usually do the underpainting, but that can depend on the color that is there. So, to do the underpainting, and if you wanted to give yourself a little sketch for this, is fine, but it's really simple. You're going to do that stroke that's a touch, press, pull, twist, and lift. And each time you do this, it's probably going to look a little bit different, and that's fine because no two petals are identical. And I just have a thing about doing 5 petals. I do the odd numbers, not even numbers. So we're going to let's see, let me go on and do the leaves on this one. Sometimes I actually paint the flower before I go back and do the leaf work, but I can get the underpainting done on this one so I can work on it later. These two have been done and they're dry and ready to start painting. And all I do is, since I still had this out on my wet palette, I'm just going to use Ferment. And this is just some dioxine purple paint. I was still using from an old pile of it that has been out for a couple of days on there. But because it's a wet palette, I can keep it covered and continue using out of it until I have to change it and put a new paper and re-wet the sponge. The nice thing about this stroke is if you don't get it quite right the first time, it's very easy to go back over it. So there's the little petals, and you'll notice the little bit of white that may or may not show around those petal edges does not take away from the painting because you're using white in there anyway. And so I'm just kind of base coating the centers with a little bit of burnt sienna. It's like my mid-range brown that I use. This was the rock where I had stamped a little bit of the wood grain background to look like a fence. And when I get through with it, it will look similar to this one. I'll go back and add some leaves at the top of the fence and then put some foliage at the bottom so that it kind of camouflages any of the, I call it oopsie effects in there. So we will paint the petals on this one. And if I feel I don't get enough light and dark, like I said, you can always go back and touch it up with another little stroke of paint. So there's the petals on that one. And then I basically do the same thing for the leaves. I've got this really dark green paint and this yellow here, and I just pick up some of both on my brush. I call it brush mixing because I just kind of dab them on the brush, and then I'll paint kind of one side of the leaf and then the other side. And usually I do one bigger leaf that requires 2 strokes. But I need a little extra highlight on that one. And then to do the stem, I just pull that in like that. So I'll do the same on this one. I usually keep using my brush, and if it gets a little dry on me, I just barely touch my brush into some water to add more moisture to it, and then just continue picking up the paint. My leaves need a little more yellow. And then I'll just pull in the little stem And the rest of how I do the leaves on this little fence is I just do a little quick touch, press, pull, and lift motion. And then I like to do a little undercoat of darker leaves so I can go back over the top with some lighter ones, or I'll just add some yellow. And then to do the bottom of this one, I use my little scruffy brush that I like so well and dab on some green and some yellow, and then just kind of fill in the foliage effect with both colors of paint on the brush. And once I get it kind of like I want it to look, I go back with more of the full strength yellow color, and then just add in some little things like that, and that's it. And then for this one, the only other thing I do to it is I've been trying to use this same little makeup wedge sponge, so I've been tossing it over in my rinse water and washing it out each time. Is I take a gold metallic, and if I knew where my bottle was, here it is. This is the one that I've been using, and I just picked that one up at Walmart. And I use this little stamp here that looks like a crackle, and I go back and I just add a little bit of this look randomly. I don't like to put it over my flower, but I put as much as I can on what the remaining area of the rock, and it's just enough that when this dries, then there's that little shimmer, and I wash that one the same way. Then the other thing I do is take a little bit of the dark green paint on my toothbrush and do some spattering. Oh, you know what I forgot to do on this one? I forgot to go back and add my center. I just dab on some burnt umber, which is the dark brown paint, and I take the yellow and dab at the top. And even though I had spattered that one, that still ended up working out pretty good. But I add the green spattering, then rinse your toothbrush and put a little bit of white on the end of it. Then I add just a little bit of white spattered over it. And that's it. Once that's good and dry, then it'll get a coat of varnish. And once it's varnished, it will look just like any of these do. This is just a variety of other shapes and sizes of rocks. Ooh. And these have all had, I think they got their third coat of varnish. And this one will get the same, and that one will get varnished also.